Hi, everyone. This is Cindy with Close Encounters. We are back for another new episode. Today we're just I guess it's a topic that I think everyone talks about, especially recently in the classical and I think this is very specific to classical music world. Um, Sort of like what to wear on stage, right? And I think we know like there's the big elephant in the room as to we talk about and but even just I think it's a conversation that I think is starting to sort of brim around our business of like what do you wear, what do you not wear on stage, given sort of the evolution of classical music presentation. It's one of those things as young artists, even like yourself, right? As you go out there and perform on stage, what are some of the trends you're seeing? What are considered appropriate, not appropriate? Is it too short, too long, too fancy, too dowdy? For me personally, the men are easier. It's slightly, there's not much you can do on stage, right? Like in terms of what you wear. So maybe this is more of a discussion in terms of like what women should or should not wear. And what is considered concert appropriate.
I'm going to use that statement to spruce up my concert attire now.
Okay, there you go.
I'll be sending pictures from now on.
You should. I mean, in school, like what have you guys been seeing at school with the school concerts and what you guys are doing when you go on stage? I mean, how much liberty are you taking?
If it's like my solo recital, probably like a dress. But like honestly, if it's like I'm playing as one of the performer, I would just wear like black things in general. Like so black. Yeah.
Well, everyone knows that's my go-to color scheme, no matter
same girl.
No matter how formal or informal, I'm in black all the time. Well, I mean, look, okay, so for example, in February, I was in Oman, in Muscat, in the Middle East, and we were seeing a concert. It was a pianist. She's I think she's from Europe, or I think she's Korean, but she's from Europe and based in Europe. And the pianist came out and she was in this almost like tuxedo kind of suit, like a very pencil pants and with the jacket. And it was not that it was not inappropriate, but it was very odd for me to see her, just someone walk on stage entirely like in a suit. And it's not that it wasn't a beautiful, it was not like informal or sloppy. It was like very put together. But for me, it felt like she was like one of those, like bodyguards, like in those, like, and she was in these gorgeous, like stilettos, right? That they're very high. And like, is it because we are so used to seeing women coming out on stage in a dress that for her to come in a very fitted like suit, two-piece, jacket and pants, and with the white underneath it, but it threw me off. And then the colleagues that were there with me also commented on that it was just so odd for her to come on stage with that.
Well, I mean, that's how all trends start, I feel like, by someone commenting that it's odd or weird. And, when someone does it, it's not weird anymore because someone already did it, right? So
is that, so I guess the question now is that, am I being old fashioned and like old school and say like women have to wear a dress? I guess the issue is like her selection of pants, like, because that combo, that ensemble, it didn't fit her being on that piano. Like it literally felt like she was this, like how high-end luxury stores, the customer service, they all wear these beautiful looking suits, or like a high-end, security guard, like one of those, like in the very fancy outfit, right? It looked like she was in another profession. If she wore maybe not black, something that's more flowy, it just was very harsh against what she was also playing. So visually, it just didn't match up. And also, does the outfit help you does it add value to the performance that you're doing? or the pieces that you're playing doesn't match. But that was really, that was something interesting. I mean, first time ever seeing someone coming on stage in like a woman with a two-piece suit.
I think we should insert the picture here, like so we can
Yeah,
see.
I really want to see actually, because it sounds a little bit like
intrigued.
a sleigh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me try to see if I can find a photo.
I'm curious if that's like her style all the time, like for all her concerts, that's just what she like, that's like her signature thing.
I mean, it could be, or maybe she felt like that was more appropriate because she was in the Middle East. And so she wanted to be more respectful. So not like to be showing anything, any skin, which I completely, that's very, for her, we applaud that because she's trying to be culturally sensitive, and we have to give her that. But I just felt like even in that context, there would be, there are other choices that you could have selected. I mean, you could have still had a beautiful top, like a jacket, but maybe like a much more like a, one of those like pant skirts that are like much more flowy and maybe like add a pop of color. Like it was just like, as much as I love black, I just think that was like, it was kind of odd. I mean, have
Well,
you
I feel
guys
like if she showed up in like a green suit, you would have thought it was odd too,
No, not really. I mean, I think it was just there's pop of color. I mean, she's a solo piano recital. So it was just her and that stage, and it's a pretty big stage. I guess the thing is also, like I was saying, does the visual help with what you're listening to? Does that go one like hand in hand with each other? It doesn't matter.
Well, I think it definitely matters, but like also like a question just came up in my mind, like do those like major pianist musicians have like a stylist for every of their concert for like different area? Because I feel like for some of the people that they definitely have a stylist to curate their outfit, and then in the way that they curate it definitely help with their performance. Because also I do feel like the more controversial your outfit is, actually it brings more comment. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of stylist, I think most artists are dressing themselves. I have to say that there's a quartet that I used to work with, unbelievably amazing quartet, and we always comment how impeccably they dress, right? Like the between the two guys and the two females, they're always, the way they combine, they put their ensembles together is just perfect. It was always the right combination of like colors and the patterns and the appropriateness, and it wasn't like dowdy either. It was just fresh and appropriate to their age, to the music that they're playing, and it was just very, very smart. So I think that's the word I like to use. It's like, is it a smart ensemble? And I think maybe, I don't know. I think we're just, again, like going back to what we have maybe previously talked about before, is the idea of someone even telling you what is appropriate to wear, what is not appropriate to wear, right? I mean, it's already beyond sort of like, well, you don't just come on stage in a pair of jeans and t-shirts to play, right? It's more like, how do you strategically plan out your outfit that actually can enhance what people are listening to? When you guys go on stage, what is your natural instinct? Is there a process that you're thinking about and say, okay, when I'm going on stage to play, I'm putting thoughts into like what I'm choosing? Maybe for guys, it's still very simple. There's not a lot of options, but there are still some options because it all comes down to the details.
Well, it depends what kind of performance, right? I mean, I've had like different types of performances where I come in like almost like a full-on tux.
Right.
Very, very small percentage, because there are some places where I was playing in like some, black tie events, right?
Yeah.
So that you have to make sure that you're following dress code too. Most of the performances with suit lately, I've been opting for the suit without bow tie if I'm not a soloist.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's, feels less constricting for me,
right.
Literally. And
But isn't that also a very dated, like, so personally, this is me personally, when you're young like yourself, I feel like that bow tie look is just like,
well, it's better than the tie look. If you wear the tie, it makes it look like you're going, to your 9 to 5. You know what I mean? It doesn't really feel like you're going
I
on
think it
stage.
really,
Who
again,
wears their
for
bow
me,
tie
right?
going to work?
For me, like for me, that also just means that, because to me, bow ties symbolize the old school, like how the very traditional European, they come on stage with the tail and and the bow tie look. And look, I think some of those are all still very much dictated by, it depends, right? Like some orchestra, if you're coming in on, I've worked with some orchestras or some festival theme, and then they're like, you must wear all white, right? Oh, you must wear like tail, like coattails. And those are still exist. And when it comes to that, fine. I will respect that, because if you have a unified look, that actually that will end up looking very, very nice. But besides those specific dress code dictated by the presenters or the festivals or the orchestras, even for me, it's like, how much can we play up? And I think playing it up is great. Is so maybe that's really what I'm saying, to kind of going in a big circle, is more like I love to see artists playing it up a little bit more. But then again, then there's also the extreme side, as we know, with Zan Wang, who's constantly making headline news. And to me, I find that to be then too much on the opposite spectrum of sort of how far do you take it? Because like you said, right, the visuals, is it enhancing what you're listening to, or is it now where I find her, it's now leaning more towards distracting?
On one hand, Zan Wang, people might find that type of dress distracting, but then like maybe, for example, that pianist that you were talking about who wore a suit, that may also be distracting to some people, even though it's totally different. So it's like, I think pretty complicated.
It is complicated, right?
Styling.
So again, like, yeah. So what is considered appropriate? Now this is like, is it appropriate? Not like I can't wear it, because there's no right or wrong, right? It's just about like you said, how does it add? What's the effect you want? And if it's distracting if it's taking away from your experience of focusing on the music, then is it the right choice? Right. So it could be that, right? Like that, like you said, you're absolutely right. I agree. Like that pantsuit, that ensemble that she wore, this pianist wore, was very distracting for me.
Well, I'm gonna go back to the question you asked a couple of minutes ago. Then maybe it does make you old-fashioned, because you asked whether that makes you old-fashioned. Because I mean, I don't really pay attention to stuff like that. It usually makes an impact in the beginning for me. Like I'm like, whoa, that's a heck of an outfit, or that's not typical, or something like that. But then after that, I'm like, okay, let's listen to see what they've got, or what they have to offer, right? Mm-hmm. And then it usually doesn't bother me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking more about the music, really, but I never really got distracted by an outfit before. I think it's really popular these days for a lot of people, especially like in student concerts. I've realized that people are taking after the trend and switching dresses or switching outfits during intermission.
Oh, okay. They do that.
Becoming quite popular in our anyway.
Interesting. I mean, look, I think it's this is like in the commercial world, every single artist has a stylist, right? They have an entire team that tells you what outfit you're wearing for the songs or that you're performing, because it's a look. So I guess the idea, the ultimate question is about the image that you're trying to perceive. Every classical musician, unlike the pop artists, they have a sound. But the thing is, with classical music, everyone is playing the same repertoire, right? So what is it that you're differentiating yourself that you can, which is through your outfit. So is that also a worthwhile investment for artists to then think about, well, should we get a stylist, or to very strategically think about that, right? As you build your career, what kind of image am I trying to portray? So Yuja, regardless of everyone's opinions, she has already established that image, right, of who she is. Whether you agree or not agree, she's already established that. So maybe, like, to your point, right, with the artist that I saw, is that something that she's wearing all the time? I'm not sure. Or is that just something she's wearing specifically for the occasion because she's in a much more conservative, region? We don't know, right? But if you look at sort of, classical artists, there's not one that really has a very distinct look. Like, I could say the other one is like Joshua Bell. Joshua Bell is someone who always wears a shirt and a pair of pants with nice shoes, but he never wears a tie. He never tucks in his shirt unless it's very much required of him. But that's already a look that is very much iconic to who he is. Right? If you look across like all the stuff, like with performances wherever Joshua Bell goes, he has that look. Is it distinct? It's not like outrageous, but that's a very distinct look that's associated with him. And that creates an image of like, he's a very, to me, right, that is like, I'm a down to earth, like easygoing, very nice to get along with kind of guy, because he never tucks in his shirt. Never. If you look at his performances, like on stage, unless it's absolutely required, you'll never see him with a tie or tucked in shirt. Really, I think for me, that's also a really important conversation to talk about, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to be on the extreme, but it's that consistency of a look